I was aware that the sun reflects off the water because a long time ago my brother got, not sun blindness because we were on mud flats, but the sun reflecting off the water messed his eyes up. But I never thought about sand reflecting it. I thought it'd be okay on that. So that's something I've learned.
And of course, it depends on the beach as well. If you're in the white sands of Florida, it's one thing. If you're in the rocks in California, it's another. So I'm sure that just like with that, your beaches are different as well. The Caribbean can be real trouble. I love it. I love going there, but it can be trouble.
The more and more you're talking, the more and more I just want to stay in my hotel room with the AC cranked up full.
No, don't do that. Get that vitamin D. Again, it's a slippery slope, but just everything in moderation, just like alcohol.
You can follow me on Twitter at holiday_hut. I'm coming to the end of my conversation with Joni now. She will be mentioning some websites at the end of our conversation, but don't worry, they will also be shown or listed even at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show for when you want to look up more about her work. But to start the last section, I wanted to know what Joni felt about sunbeds.
Well, it's interesting because we're passing laws, as we were talking about earlier in the U.S., against suntan beds. Believe it or not, we have a real crisis going on here in women that are in their 20s getting melanoma. We tend to think of skin cancer as not being serious. Unfortunately, 90% of melanomas are estimated to be caused by ultraviolet exposure, and melanomas kill you. And so we're seeing increased deaths in the U.S., believe it or not, because of tanning beds. Tanning beds filter out certain aspects of the sun, but they give you more of others. That's how they work. And as a matter of fact, the World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies tanning beds and tanning lamps in its highest cancer risk category, carcinogenic to humans, the same category as other hazardous substances such as plutonium and certain types of radium. And it's difficult because parents of teenagers and what have you, they have to choose their battles. But tanning beds are definitely really bad, and eventually I think we're actually going to see them banned here in the United States, whereas now they're on every corner. Using tanning beds before age 30 increases your risk of developing melanoma by 75%.
That's huge.
Even occasional use triples your chances. So please don't fight Mother Nature. If you want to get some nice vitamin D, try to get at the sun. And you can get it even in the winter. You still got to be outside and getting some good vitamin D.
That's probably the one vitamin I get a lot of because I walk my dog and I've got a bald head. So if I don't wear my hat, I'll get plenty of vitamin D coming through. Everything else I'm deficient on, but vitamin D, I think I'm fine.
Oh, there you go. Well, you're in the minority anymore.
Yeah. So what sort of skin damage should people look out for?
Well, I try to keep a watch on my skin. I'm not young anymore, and as a child, I was raised on the coast, so I know that I do have, an increased risk. We didn't know back then anything about sunscreens, which may be a good thing, like we've been talking about today, but I've certainly had my share of skin exposures. So I check my skin often. There are areas that you can't, so as you age, it's good to go to a dermatologist. But if you see any new moles that are tender or growing, gross, right? Just what you want to talk about on a travel show. Make sure that you get them checked. I know a lot of times here they'll freeze them. Dermatologists will freeze places on your skin to prevent it from becoming skin cancer later. But melanoma, that's a little different. Notice any new lumps or bumps and make sure to show them to your doctor quickly. And if they stay there, follow up. Because melanoma is very serious. It can spread to your brain, and it's a serious type of cancer. Take it serious.
Yep. So how can we find out more about suntan lotions, sunscreens? You said use the internet, but do you have any preferred references?
Well, it's interesting because I found when I was doing my research, cancerresearchuk.org. And I tell you, they had some wonderful advice on there. Now, a lot of the information for today's program came from the Environmental Working Group, or the EWG. And the EWG is an American environmental organization that specializes in research and advocacy in the areas of toxic chemicals, etc. It's a nonprofit organization, so they have a lot of great information there. You can look it up, EWG, and they actually have a newsletter, a free newsletter, most everybody does anymore, that can help you to learn a lot of information on a lot of different areas, what's in your food, and certainly what's in your sunscreens, and they do a yearly report.
So how can we find out more about Joni Aldrich?
Well, thank you for asking that, John. My most recent book, Advocacy Heals You, 15 Keys to Fast Track Results and Emotional Fulfillment, is actually up for a Pulitzer Prize here in the U.S., and I would love it if people would go to Motivational Press and look up information on Advocacy Heals You. It's you. You can also find more at www.jonialdrich. I'll spell that because, that's kind of an unusual name, JONIALDRICH.com. And John, I'd love for people to go to UK Health Radio and listen in to my radio programs there. That play twice a day and every day, Monday through Friday.
Okay, thanks, Joni. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, John.
Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. And now travel news. A petition has been launched to force Carnival Cruise Lines to stop featuring a cruel turtle attraction in the Cayman Islands, and this is according to a report in Travel Mole. I've actually visited this turtle attraction as part of a Cayman Islands tourist board trip over there, and while it was, nice and exciting, I suppose, to see these turtles up close, when you think about it, when you come back, you think, maybe that wasn't a good idea. But anyway, the petition has been launched by World Animal Protection, and it's urging the cruise giant to put the welfare of endangered sea turtles ahead of profit and stop sending passengers to the Cayman Turtle Centre. It says the attraction endangers sea turtles by keeping them in shocking conditions. Cruise holiday makers go there for the opportunity to take a turtle selfie, which I did do, and they're usually unaware of the abuse and suffering the turtles experience, according to the charity. It says Carnival continues to send tourists there despite repeated requests from the campaign group. In 2012, the charity said it exposed behind-the-scenes evidence of more than 5,000 endangered sea turtles in overcrowded, unhygienic conditions, fed on an unnatural diet. The charity says that the conditions have created abnormal behaviours among the turtles, such as aggression and even cannibalism. The charity also accuses the centre of breeding turtles to provide turtle meat for people and restaurants across the island. Well, actually, I was told that was the purpose of the place. It's a turtle farm to stop fishermen taking wild turtles to restaurants for food, and it was a case of breeding it's like a farm really for turtles, but they've been accused of that, and I was told that's what they were there for, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Anyway, Travel Mole, as part of the story, contacted Carnival Cruise Line but didn't get a response at the time of this recording. Now, travel safety is a growing concern amongst business travellers and travel managers, according to a survey by American Express Global Business Travel. The poll carried out in March found 56% of corporate buyers noticed a rise in the number of business travellers reporting heightened personal safety concerns for the first 3 months of this year. 25% said they've seen increased requests for security training in the past 6 months. Also, 54% said travellers had expressed growing worry about travelling to the US as changes to visa requirements and immigration policies loom. In response to recent challenges, 87% of buyers report plans to improve safety training, with 1/3 having introduced these changes already. 14% planning to roll out new programs over the next 1 or 2 years, and 40% are discussing changes internally. The poll also highlighted concerns about data theft while travelling, with 31% of buyers saying they've seen an increase in traveller inquiries about data security over the past 3 months. But American Express Global Business Travel said that few companies seem to have coherent policies in place to address these concerns. The survey found 58% said employees were permitted to use their personal devices for business communication, 64% said travellers may access public Wi-Fi on their business devices, and 47% allowed for the use of non-purged laptops and devices while on the road. Cheapflights.co.uk has revealed that the UK's regional airports are becoming increasingly popular. The research carried out by the company showed that out of 20 million searches and more than 200 different routes, it doesn't always pay to fly from London. The spokesperson said it's logical to assume that the holidaymakers will get the best bang for the buck flying from London, where capacity and choice are the greatest. However, a fair crunching shows that flying from a local airport will often only cost a few pounds extra, which will have more than offset when you factor in the cost of travel to reach London and potentially even a pre-flight hotel stay. Furthermore, there are some regional routes, for example Belfast to Vegas, Edinburgh to Kuala Lumpur and Birmingham to Hong Kong, where the fares are actually lower than the London prices. The company's data shows that short-haul holiday hotspots such as Malaga can be reached from 8 of the UK's 13 key regional cities for a price difference of less than £30 versus the London fare. It will cost passengers, on average, just £5.89 more to reach Malaga from Liverpool than from London, for example, and only £10.86 extra to depart from Leeds Bradford versus the capital. Midlanders in search of a bargain should consider Alicante or Tenerife, where flights departing from Birmingham are only £20 and £24 more than they would be from flying from London. On many popular long-haul routes, it can work out cheaper to depart from smaller regional airports versus London. Vegas, for example, is an average £209 cheaper from Belfast and £151 lower from Manchester than from London. The research also shows a year-on-year jump in demand for flights from all UK airports, with Belfast 206% up, Edinburgh 160% up, and Newcastle 149% up. Lowest average fares from every regional city have come down year on year, yet average fares for London departures have gone up, according to Cheap Flights. Cardiff, which recently announced plans to build a new airport terminal in response to increased passenger numbers, saw an uplift in flight searches of 108% year on year and an overall reduction in fares of £64. There we go. If you're flying away, if you're not booked yet, check out your regional airport. Well, that's it for this week's travel show. I hope you found the information on skin cancer and prevention useful, and also about the support you can get from Macmillan. If you've got any tips on how to be safe with your IT equipment while you're away, please do let me know. Facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. And also, if you make some sense out of this formula from Hotels.com, I'll be interested to see how it works for you. And I do hope you can join me next time on the Travel Show with John Guinn on UKHealthRadio.com, where each week I check out before you check in.